So today we're talking about the mind. Now we come to the mind, and he talks about how the mind gets constructed over time, and multiple layers of mind happen. And what is the net result of those? So the first thing that happens in your experience as a human being is that you have experience. You have things come in through the senses, at least 5 of them. It comes in through the senses, and you are in the process of experiencing those. And a very clean experience is one in which you just can experience it as it is. It doesn't really trip a wire for you. It doesn't force you to feel anything too extreme, either good or bad. It's just an experience. You have it, you get it, and you put it in the storage container. And nothing much is made of it. That's a form of experiencing. And then there's the experience which is delightful, that just feels so good you want to repeat it again and again. And you remember that, and you kind of cling on to that. You don't let it just kind of come in and put it in the box. You try to hold on to it. And as you try to hold on to it, it forms an impression in your mind. And that impression then has ramifications. So let's talk about what the mind is that is either letting this flow or not flow. You start here, feeling yourself, and then you move out beyond this core of who you are to the edges of your skin, and you're still kind of, for most of us, we still feel fairly comfortable with defining ourselves to the limit of this skin. But then you can also imagine, sense, and feel out beyond your skin, and without too much effort, really, occupy that space. And that is more like your mind, because we typically think, I am my preferences, my thoughts, my emotions, my habits. Now, we don't say it explicitly like that. You just say, oh, this is me. That's the way I am. The mind itself is this space. It's not defined. I was listening to a Buddhist, or reading about Milarepa. Milarepa is the guy who was a Tibetan Buddha. And he was teaching somebody, and he says, go find your mind and try to capture it, describe it, understand it. And the guy could not do it. He sits in meditations and he comes back, he says, I can't do it. He goes, see, that's the nature of it. It's not containable, it's not definable, it doesn't have a space, it doesn't have a place that you can grab. It's that space in which your experience happens. That's a Buddhist description of mind. There are many ways of calling different aspects of our totality, mind, and that's their way of doing it. It's the space in which your thoughts, feelings, and experiences can happen. And essentially where Singer is going is he's going to say at some point that if you want to be happy, be the space, not the content. Be the spaciousness, not the particulars that are in it. Let that be who you define yourself in. And that way you can let the experiences come in and flow through you. And that flow keeps you in line with the universe and allows you to be happier because you're not obsessed with getting your preferences, which are the content, part of the content. And those preferences come about because at some point it was delicious and you wanted more of it, or it was unpleasant and you wanted none of it. Right? And those become your preferences. And once we get those preferences really well established, then we say, oh, well, that's just who I am. That's the who I am, are these preferences. And the what I do as I am, as this personality, is I manipulate the world to the best of my ability to deliver the pleasant and to avoid the unpleasant. And that becomes our job. Make the world work according to me, so I don't have to feel that, and I will feel this. When we do this, when we force the world to fit our preferences, it may go well, and it may go very badly. And so what Singer's saying is, a better system would be to get rid of those preferences as needs. Maybe you have them, maybe they just lighten up a bit. There's a phrase that one of my favorite ministers used to say, the way is wide and the path is easy for those who have no preferences. The way is wide and the path is easy for those who have no preferences. But what the Buddha said was, life is suffering. And he says, and that's the first principle. It's really, life is dissatisfaction is a better translation. The next thing is, the cause of dissatisfaction is desire. Gotta have it. Can't have it. That kind of desire. And so, when we come to a more nuanced, neutral place, when we don't see the world in black and white, and it has to be our way, then we can begin to unwind the preferences which will arise, surely, in our consciousness. They will arise, but if we don't buy into them and double down on making it so, putting all our effort into making it so, then they have a chance to release, because they're basically what they are is a memory that keeps arising in your consciousness, trying to get out, trying to be released from its compressed little storage bin you stuck in your pocket, and just let it flow again. This is just a spark, and so much of all we see in the sensory experience is an ink blot test, only it's less clear that it's that way. But just think how this woman interpreted the man who was helping her. She saw him as a saint, and the rest of the world saw him as a sinner. Right? Same guy. And so the projections we put out there, if we are always trying to change the projection, we're working at the wrong end of the projector. Because so much of the projection of what we think is wrong or right with the world is really what we bring to it, not what's out there. It has no valence, much of it at all, yet we give it positive or negative. And so this unwinding of this is part of this process of living untethered. When you can accept the world as it is and notice your preferences, but don't surrender to them and to the need that they be fulfilled, then you have the ability to raise your mind out of this preference world of get it your way, try to change a world which is so much bigger than you are, and you can just live in it. Then you have freedom with your mind to explore almost anything. I would like to give you a couple of practices that you could do between now and next time we meet. A couple of ways you can do. You can pick one you like. One is, I think it's really helpful to sometimes move down into your heart, however you do that, and see if you can get all your senses to be located here. Like your eyes, your nose, your ears, etc. So that your sense of self shifts from I'm thinking this to I'm experiencing this. Because from here it's much more of an experience thing rather than a thought, think about it, rather than about a preference thing. So that's one thing you can do. And the other thing I would suggest, if you can pull this off, and not everybody can, is we have had a man here a few times who teaches the headless way. And the headless way basically says, it asks you a series of questions. And if you honestly answer them directly from your experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you can't do that, it's understandable because it's kind of a trick with your mind. But here are the questions. The question is, can you see your own face? Can you see your own head? Of course you can't, right? You can't. And they say, but I've seen pictures. Well, yeah, so you think you know what's up there. In my case, I'm getting happier and happier to realize I cannot see my face. But just think of it. You can't see your head. You can't see your head at this moment. Can anybody see their head? Nobody. So what you have, if you will make this little leap, is that you have no head, experientially, right? At this moment, you have information coming in through your senses, but you have no head. With me? And if you're not, you can just say, I don't know where he's going. Of course you don't. Because we are so committed to this I identity that we have this is the biggest marker of our identity, right? You know, that even those people I hadn't seen in 50 years, you know, you can go, oh, I kind of remember you from your face, right? So it's from the head we choose to be ourselves. So now imagine you don't have a head. Because you can't see it, you can't prove it. You can see you have legs, you can see you have arms, you can see you have a belly, but at some point you can't see any more of yourself. So you have no head. Are you playing with me now? Are you with me? So you become headless. So what is on top of your shoulders, which you can see, and that is the rest of the world. All you see is on your head. As one man said, the world has pancaked down onto your shoulders. You are headless, experientially, in this moment. No memory now, just this moment. You're headless. So then you walk around part of the day headless. It's a trip. It's a real trip to think, I'm not seeing. Seeing is just happening. I'm just awareness itself. I am not. I am seeing you. Seeing and being are one and the same. This object and the observer have collapsed. It's a mind game, I must say. But once you practice it, it begins to be much simpler to imagine that you are awareness itself and not the body and the mind, but awareness that holds all of that.
I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.